Ragnar.
Yeah, I mean, Funcom was going through some tough times after the Secret World, and a lot of people were put on forced leave. And we always wanted to make this game that we're making now. So these things sort of happen at the same time in a way that whenever we were doing press for the Secret World, people were always asking like, when is the next game coming out? And then having that in mind, and when so many people had to leave Funcom, Ragnar said, okay, Funcom, can I please have the license or license the license and make this new game? So he brought a lot of people from Funcom with him and started Red Thread Games. That's basically it.
So basically, you had in mind, to do another Dreamfall game for a while.
The Dreamfall was always meant to be the first game out of two.
Yeah.
So it was always intended to be two games. That's why the first game ended with so many cliffhangers. There's a lot of unanswered questions, basically. So yeah, it was always intended to be two games. So this is the second half we're making now.
Yeah. So I guess you said you brought a lot of people from Funcom. I guess that's why the game looks very good, because Funcom games usually are very good technically. And I wonder, did you already say publicly what kind of engine are you using?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, we are now working together with a company called Blink, which consists of ex-Funcom people. They left Funcom a couple of years ago, and it's the old art director for Dreamfall and a lot of the technical animators. So we have a lot of the same artists, so really, really talented artists. And we're working in Unity, which is amazing. I mean, it's free, which means that you can just pick it up and start making things. So we're pushing the Unity engine to its fullest. It's looking really, really good in Unity, and we already have a really good collaboration with Unity, trying to squeeze as much juice as we can out of the Unity engine.
Yeah, and so of course Unity is a cross-platform. So I read on your Kickstarter page, of course, there was a question about consoles, next-gen consoles. So I'd like to know if there is some news about it.
Yeah, we really want to go on consoles as well. We haven't given out like anything final, but we are working on it, to put it like that. We have some dev kits, and we are already customizing it so that you can play it with a controller and mouse and keyboard you can choose.
Yeah.
So we're sort of, there's not been a final word on it yet, but we really want to go on consoles, and we're basically talking to all the major ones now and trying to find a deal.
So of course I guess that means mostly PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, but it's also maybe Wii U is a possibility, or maybe...
It is a possibility. We have actually started looking at it. I think personally that this game can work really well on the Wii U. So.
Okay, so maybe speaking about the game, of course, and I've read that there are 3 playable characters scheduled, and you said, of course, the name of the second one, Kieran, I think. But I guess, can you explain a bit for his motivation, to be a character in this world, and what's he going to do?
Yeah. So basically, Kian's fate was a bit. He sort of had a change of heart, right? He sort of saw his own people in a different light at the end of Dreamfall. So you can kind of say that his soul is a bit shattered. He's lost his will to fight. So like in the beginning of the game, you're taking him through a section of the game where he needs to sort of find that will to fight back. And you actually start up in Friar's Keep, the prison, where Kian now sits, and you're basically starting by he needs to find the motivation to break himself out of out of that prison. And yeah, so a lot of the game is about like Keon finding strength or the will to fight again, and of course his path will cross with some other characters in the game.
Okay, so are you going to split, the playtime evenly amongst the three characters, or is there going to be someone who has more playtime than others?
I think it's not going to be evenly amongst the three. The third character you don't play as much, but the time between Zoe and Keon is about 50-50. Maybe a bit more Zoe, than Keon, but it's 60-40.
It's like the phase of the game, so
yeah.
And I have a kind of similar question, for the two worlds, Stark and Arcadia. Are you going to play more in one, or?
There I would say it's about 50-50. It's a bit hard to say, but maybe actually a bit more in Arcadia now. We are opening that world up a bit more. We felt that in the longest journey, you saw more of Arcadia, and it felt a bit more magical. In Dreamfall, it was more sort of medieval city, but you didn't see that much of the magical world. So we're opening up more in Marcuria now. You get to see more of that world. So actually, probably like 60-40 there as well. 60% be in Marcuria.
That's cool. I like magic.
And we felt that some of that magic was lost in Dreamfall. Not lost, but it wasn't played up as much as it could have. So we want to bring more of that magical, sort of fairy tale kind of world back into the game.
Okay. And
can you tell us more about April?
Nice try. No, I'm sorry, I can't.
Okay.
I don't want to spoil anything. Ragnar will kick my ass.
I've tried.
Yeah.
I can't blame the guy for trying.
No, that's cool.
And
it's my job.
Yeah.
So, of course, the game is now full 3D, of course. And are you going to have, of course, investigating? I think it's the main part of the game. But are you going to have any kinds of, I don't want to say combat, or ways to disable, possible enemies or people who will stop you?
Yeah. There won't be any combat or stealth mechanics. It didn't feel that good, I would say, in Dreamfall. I don't think it added that much to the game. We started talking about like what sort of mechanics do we want into this game when we started making it, and we said, or we think that people don't play those types of game, or at least Dreamfall, for the combat or for the stealth. It's more for the getting immersed into the story, the storytelling, the interesting characters, the beautiful worlds. So there won't be anything like that. There will be sort of I don't want to say puzzles, because that sounds very puzzly, but there will be tasks for you to complete where you need to use your head. And some of them might be disabling a guard, but then you do that in one unique way, in a sort of a puzzle, and then that puzzle is done. You won't see that again, sort of. So it will be unique mechanics, and hopefully people will find that interesting. And it's actually quite a good challenge for us not having combat, because it forces us to sort of design our way around combat, because combat can often be a fallback. It can be like a cushion. Oh, we need a challenge, just fight someone, and now we need to sort of really think, how would this character solve this without combat? And I think that makes it an interesting game.
Yeah, also most games are combat based, combat center, and of course some variety, it's good for video gaming in general. I think maybe it could also open, the player base, the gamer base, to other kind of, women, or maybe other kind of people who don't like action games.
Yep.
Maybe as much.
I agree.
And some other question. Do you have an idea how long the game will be?
we're estimating somewhere. It sort of varies a bit. It's very hard to say how long the game will be because we don't know how fast people will play. But we're estimating somewhere between 10 and 12 hours, something like that.
And I know you said the game will not have episodes, it will not be episodic, like so that's a full release.
Yep.
But if the game is successful, will you consider doing DLC or maybe expansions like that?
I think that can potentially be very interesting. If it's a success and people want more of the story, we'll definitely look into that. I think it's pretty cool what Borderlands did. They had the full game, and then you have certain characters that people really like what's her name, Crazy Tina or something, and people wanted more of her. And they release a DLC about her story, and I think something like that could be very, very interesting to our game as well, like because you meet tons of cool characters, and some of them people I'm sure will like more than others, and if you have like a favorite for the community or for the players who like the game, then we might look into like telling that character's story. So that's an option, yes.
So is there kind of like a main enemy in the game, main figure, antagonist? Tell us about, or?
Yes, there are several, but in sort of in the true sort of spirit of the game, it's not always clear who the enemy is. The enemy sort of has many faces, but there is some sort of overarching entity that is bad and trying to destroy the world, basically. So it will become clear after some time into the game, but it's not going to be like that's the bad guy and you have to wait now until the end of the game before you fight him. It's not going to be that. It's more lurking, it's more overarching, and hopefully a bit more sort of
more interesting.
Sorry?
More interesting.
Yeah, we think so at least.
So I don't know, I think you had another appointment at 1:30, is that?
Let me check. I don't know.
Tiffany said something.
Ah, okay. She knows better than me. Yes. I mean, if you guys want to keep talking, the other guys can probably do that. If you guys want to talk more.
Okay. Do you have some questions?
No. I can talk about the UI, which is kind of cool because like the longest journey was point and click. Dreamfall was 3D, and now we're trying to. And this game is also 3D, but we're trying to sort of pay homage to the old point and click games. So when you move around the character, you have sort of a center of the screen where you can sort of look at things, and if it is interactable, it would sort of snap and tell you like this is interactable. But if you right click or use a button on the controller, the mouse is free. So if you like really want to go into the sort of finer details of whatever you're looking at, for instance a table, and you need to like look at like these two different cards, and you want to sort of like do stuff, you can like right click,
so
and
you can interact with different objects
in a more granular way, in a more sort of fine way. It's going to be very minimal, the UI. It's not going to be like health bars and scores or anything like that. It's just going to be very clean. The inventory is super clean, and just sort of, we don't want to clutter the experience with UI elements. More like we just want to show off the world, so the UI is almost nothing. Which I think it's nice. It's working out really well.
Yeah, I've seen. I mean, your demonstrations, right? And that was very good looking, and of course that interaction, with the robot, that was kind of nice.
Yeah.
So
it was quite fun to read the comments after that very short presentation. I mean, we demoed the game for like 10 minutes, and after that I was just reading the YouTube comments, and like there were so many people that already felt connected to that robot. Like people say like, oh, I already feel love for that piece of scrap metal. And it's like, I think that's so cool because Ragnar and Dag, the writers, they're so good at creating these characters that feel real, and you feel an attachment to them. and it's like so quickly. I think that's fantastic to see.
Yeah, I mean, of course, having interesting characters is of utterly importance, for an adventure game, type of game. So
Yeah.
it's clear already from the demonstration. It seems very good. So, do you have anything specific or planned for sound, like voice actors or maybe music?
Yeah, we haven't nailed down anything yet, or at least we haven't made anything official. But we're in talks trying to get really, really good voice actors and composers. It's so important that the voice acting is perfect. Like, it needs to be, as you said, the characters are so important. It's what drives the game, basically, and getting voice actors that can really nail down the characters is really important. And I know that Ragnar and Dag, they're in talks with different studios and different people to try to get the best ones.
Okay, so people can look forward to an announcement, later.
Definitely. As soon as we have any information that's sort of been set in stone, then we release all the information as quickly as possible. I mean, we have an obligation to all our backers that gave us money to do this. I mean, this is their game as well. It's not our game. And so we're being very transparent with whenever we have information, we tell people.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic, Kickstarter. So I mean, there are a lot of even not so small developers who are pitching their game to people right now. And are you open to go back to the publisher model maybe in the future, or do you want to keep using Kickstarter if it's possible?
I think it depends. I really enjoyed Kickstarter. It worked out really well, but for us now, like if we're planning our next game, we all already are thinking about new games. We don't have any money. Like, when we went on Kickstarter, we were 5 people. Just can we make this? And yes, we were fortunate, and thank you to all the backers that backed us. And now we have money to make this game. But it's going to take some time. Like, when we release Dreamfall, and hopefully it's a huge success, but we never know, right? And it will take some time before we get money. So if we go on Kickstarter, we need to launch a Kickstarter probably before we launch Dreamfall, because we need salaries.
Kind of like Inside did with Torment.
Exactly. But talking about publishers, it's I think it's incredibly refreshing to not have a publisher. I enjoy it, but I'm not so naive to say I will never work with a publisher again. So that might happen. We just don't know yet.
Yeah.
Right now we have money to make one game, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, from our side, I can safely say, I think that it's a lot easier to deal directly with developers rather than going through publisher, PR, all this thing.
Yeah.
So
it's good for us as well. I mean, we're there, we're on the forums, we're on Twitter, we're talking to people all the time, we meet them at conventions like this. It's just us. I mean, I sit every day and make this game, and I get to go out and meet people, and it's amazing. I love it. But yeah, that's it.
They wouldn't let you do that with the publisher. I mean,
well,
it will be more limited, I think.
You are definitely more limited, but it also depends on the publisher, and it depends on the company that you work for. When I was in Funcom, I was they didn't put that many restrictions on us when it came to stuff like that. We were still talking to people and being involved in the community, but it's, you have more control when you're by yourself. Basically, you basically do what you want and what you think is best for the company, and we are making those decisions ourselves, which is good.
Okay. So maybe last question. Okay. I know you worked on Secret World, of course, and I was anticipating the game a lot before release, and it's a good game, but you know, maybe it did not grab, you know, people as it could have. So do you think there is a way, you know, to improve story-based MMO in the future, or to do better, you know, than the Secret World? Or
Yeah, I mean, of course, it could have been better. I think if you just talk about like a story-based MMO, I think the Secret World and the story in the Secret World is really good. I think that's. I'm a bit biased, of course, but I think that's the best one out there. There are other things that didn't work in the Secret World, I feel.
yeah,
Like the combat, the sort of moment-to-moment
Yeah.
gameplay. Some people found it difficult to not have skills. No, sorry, levels.
Yeah.
It was difficult to know which monsters you could fight and all. The skill system was quite big and
Yeah.
deep. So I think that we could have done a better job. However, I think the idea behind it is good. It sounds weird when I say that because I designed it, but I really feel that there's something there. I think it could have been presented in a better way. I don't think we did a good enough job easing people into it. It has a quite high threshold. And I'm not saying like, oh, the game wasn't successful because the players aren't smart enough. Like, this is on us. It could have been much better. The moment-to-moment gameplay wasn't fun enough. The combat wasn't tight enough. So there are many elements. All in all, we learned from it. It could have been done much better. But if you're only talking about sort of story-based MMO, I think the Secret World is a really good MMO.
yeah. No, I mean, of course, making an MMO is a very hard thing, I think, to do for you. I mean, as a developer,
It's so big. There's
kind
so
of
many things.
like the hardest kind of game to do.
Yeah.
I think.
I mean, and it's scary because I think it took us 5 years or so to make the Secret World, and you have a design, and you sort of, and yes, it changes changes as you go a little bit, but still, you're sort of spending 5 years on something that you don't know if it's a hit or not. And the feedback that we were getting from the beta and people testing the game, they said this is good. I remember we had a survey after one of the betas, and we had like thousands of people playing, and I think 80% of them said this game is fantastic and I will recommend it to all my friends. And it's like, okay, then we're onto something here. People like this, and then when we launched, it didn't go as expected. You just don't know.
Yeah.
It's the games are so big. There's so many features. There's so many systems in there. The economy and the exploration, the leveling, the combat, the damage, the crafting, the storytelling, the characters, just building the world, the server tech. It's so much.
Would you give it another try, you know, to try to do an MMO in the future, if it's possible?
Yes, I would. If you asked me a year ago, I would say no. But yes, I would. I would. But right now, it's very refreshing to work on a single player game. I'll put it like that. It's so much tighter.
Yeah.
Sicherheitshinweis.
Okay.
Verehrte Besucher,
Okay.
bitte achten Sie auf Ihre Wertsachen. Vielen Dank.